Hey, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Trust you all had an amazing weekend. It's Warren Connolly here, coming to you from a truly autumn Hungary with my co-host, Mr.
Paul Bursey from London. Well, London originally.
Originally, well, I could say originally from South Africa, but no.
Yeah, I know. I live about 40 miles away now.
Yes.
But anyway, my weekend was mixed. I earned some money refereeing football. And then I came home and I had a fine for parking in a bus lane or park in a bus stop. And it was exactly the same amount I earned for the football. So
you basically wasted your weekend.
yeah. So basically, I had a non-weekend, really. But anyway,
there's a lesson to be learned there somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, probably. It's my fault. I can't argue. Today's subject: the power of asking powerful questions. So I'm not a great lover of using the same word in the same sentence. However, I think this is the name of a book. So who are we to say?
Yeah, who are we to argue with an author?
Yeah, let me ask you a question, Ron. Would it be fair to say that most people want to communicate effectively?
No, I wouldn't say it's a fair question. No, I wouldn't. I honestly, I wouldn't. I don't think most people want to communicate effectively. I think most people just want to communicate as much as is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, there are some people that don't really want to communicate.
No.
But I'm saying for the people that in our space, let's say, then
in our space,
in our business space, I would say that most people would love to be able to communicate effectively.
Yes.
But why don't they? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's all. And so if you think about it logically, it's all about asking the right questions, and the right questions are powerful in their own right.
You see, you use the word right twice in the same sentence there as well. So it's kind
of no, I can do that though because I'm the host. So asking powerful questions simply means that you rephrase your question to ensure a response, and that's what we want. So yes, we can ask questions, but are they effective questions always? You know, because we can ask a yes/no question. That's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a closed question. Yeah,
and there is a big place for those types of questions, obviously. But if you really want to move forward quickly and effectively, you know, we want a little bit more than "How are you?"
Did you park in the bus stop yesterday?
Did I park in a bus stop? Yeah. Okay, yes, I admit it. But what we're referring to is quality. The quality, the more quality that the question is, the more power there is behind it. You know, questions that elicit great answers. You know, and those answers have to have an impact. You know, and the thing is, you listen to some questions and they're like wishy-washy and soft, and you know, as I say, they've got their place. But in things like sales and business, you know, there's no room for being wishy-washy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the brain. Just one thing. I'll just say one more thing. The brain thinks in questions.
Okay. Because if you are looking to move forward in any project in life, right? In anything, you're going to ask yourself questions, correct? Absolutely. So yeah. And this is one thing I always laugh at when I get phone calls from like insurance people or things like that. It's like, so tell me, how was your weekend, or how's your week going? It's like, dude, really? Come on. Do you really care about how my weekend was? You don't know me from a bar of soap, so please, you know. And it's that's wishy-washy. Yeah, that's beating around the bush, not getting straight to the point. Or and this is where powerful questions will come in. You know, you're getting to the point, but you're not being brash, or you're not being pushy, or you're not being rude about it. But you're asking a powerful question, which is getting somebody to think about something for a change rather than respond automatically. Because as you said, you want to elicit a powerful answer.
Yeah, I think that's what we all want. I mean, look, if you're going to take the time to talk to someone, you want to have some effect on that person by
Exactly.
what you're asking. And look, we're not there to waste each other's time. You know, you're going to be asking questions that you want a decent answer to.
I had a great conversation with a young guy from South Africa earlier, just before the podcast, and he asked me some really powerful questions, and I said to him, "These are great questions you're asking me. I'm really happy that you're asking me these questions because not many people ask questions like that, you know." So it was a sign of his intelligence, I believe. You know, it's a level of his thinking. He's asking powerful questions because he's not a loafer. He's not a mental loafer. And I think this is the thing, is that people have become mental loafers. You know, they've become lazy in their thinking, right? And so therefore asking a powerful question is And unfortunately, we encounter this too often. You know, I had a conversation with a guy, a couple of conversations with a guy last week, and in South Africa as well, ironically enough. Very nice man, very nice man. I really like the guy. But at the end of the conversation, I said to him, "Look, I'm glad I've discovered a lot about you, but I would have liked to have shared a little bit about myself and what I'm here for, you know, before the end of this conversation."
Yeah.
But you haven't asked me any questions. I said to him straight, "You haven't asked me any questions about me." You know? And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I said, no, that's okay, because we've been having a good conversation. But people have become very lazy in their thinking. So therefore, I think it's difficult for people to, like you said, people want to be able to ask powerful questions, but they don't know what to ask because they're not used to asking.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna show you something in a minute. Carry on talking though.
So how do we get people asking powerful questions?
You do something that's different to what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
Okay, and here's a classic example. If I was sitting having coffee with you in a coffee shop and I showed you that, oh, hang on, that's a pound sign.
Yeah.
Okay? Not a dollar sign, a pound sign. So if I showed you that, that would initiate a question from the other person, don't you think?
Sure. Well,
yeah, I've just made that up. I mean, you know, the theory. Why would you ask people questions? I mean, say, okay, we ask for someone from directions, and we say, "Can you tell me the way to Trafalgar Square, or London, or wherever it may be, wherever you are?" And you expect a reasonable answer, don't you? If you jump on that train there, that will take you straight into London. You know, maybe they know where the station is for that. But what I'm saying is, the result you want is you're going to tell me, hopefully, where I need to go, what station I need to get. Do I need to get a bus? Do I need to get a train? You know, and unfortunately, when people go to, it could be the unemployment office, it could be going to a job. A lot of people sit there and only answer questions that they're asked by the interviewer. But as interviewee, you would set yourself apart if you had your own half a dozen questions you were going to ask them.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't.
I don't know how many times I've asked people, "Do you have any questions?" in an interview, and they're like, "No."
Yeah, I always think up some questions beforehand about what I want to ask. You know,
Good.
but everyone's life is a reflection of the top questions they ask. You know, and I think that's really, really important. And I love being in a sales situation where I'm asking questions, and you can have some fun with it.
And tell the viewers, Paul, what's the one key factor relating to being the one that's asking the questions?
Well, I mean, you could say they're in charge.
Yeah.
They're probably the more likely to be the alpha. You know, the person who's got what that person wants.
Or if not the alpha, at least in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you could be an alpha in that particular situation, but not very good alpha anywhere else. I mean, But it's the same, you know, when you get a captain at football or rugby, they're going to be, you know, not necessarily asking questions, but they're going to be, you know, powerful and confident and directing their people to do certain things, you know, leadership stuff. And I think that's very important as well. But it's all the same thing. It all comes from that confidence angle, you know. We have to, sometimes before we ask a question, we have to think first and then reflect on the question that we've asked ourselves before we ask someone a question, to make sure we're going down the right avenue and we're going to ask some really fantastic questions from that person. Hopefully, it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, and this is something that I was thinking as well, is that I wanted to bring up, is the fact that having in your mind that you want to be engaging with powerful questions, it forces you to think about what the conversation is what's happening in the conversation. You know, so it gets you listening more than if you just have, let's say you have a series of questions that you want to ask in your head or in a piece of paper or whatever, but you're not necessarily thinking about the conversation that you're having with that person. So those questions no longer, maybe they're not relevant anymore by the time you're halfway through the conversation, or the person's answered the question to answered your question, but you haven't listened to them because you have in your head that this is the questions I want to ask. But if you're thinking about powerful questions, that you can ask through the course of a conversation, it forces you to listen a lot more, and the person respects you for that because they can feel that you're listening to what they're saying.
Yeah,
and therefore your relationship, the level of your relationship is much deeper. Sorry.
Yeah. No. What I was going to say was that you can overdo it with powerful questions.
Of course,
you've got to pick and choose wisely, so that the questions you do ask really affect the other person and make them think. And I think that's very, very true of any interview or something like that, because it's the sheer quality of the questions that makes the difference. And the other thing is, asking questions helps us make better decisions and make better choices. That's extremely important, especially if you're in business. I mean, I saw that. I wrote these down actually. I've got some notes here, and it said you've got questions and you've got powerful questions. Now, I did these on the fly, so probably they could be a little bit more powerful. But so someone asked the questions, "What are you up to today?" That to me is just a general conversation you have with someone on the phone. Okay, but if you're talking about a powerful question, the question may be, if you're dealing with accountability or a coach or something like that, what is your priority today? You know, and actually, when I saw it written down, it said, "What are your priorities today?" Now, I disagree totally with that.
With priorities, yeah, true.
Yeah, it's a word that was hijacked. It's priority. You can only have one priority that you personally are going to do. When you finish that priority, then you can do your second. Then you can think about a second priority.
Then think about a second priority, but don't.
Yeah, and then go down that route. What I'm saying is, if you want to do something really well, like ask questions, let's say for one thing, that first question has got to be the most important question for that interview or chat or whatever it is. All right, the one that's going to make them think the most, the one that you're going to get the best answer from. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have other questions there. Excuse me, but you are. But so if I was doing an accountability and I was talking to someone who was in sales, and I say, my question wouldn't be, "Did you speak to anyone today?" My question would be, "How many new people did you start conversations with today?" It's just far more. There's more impact in it. How are you getting on meeting people? No. Who did you contact today? You know, what steps have you taken today to speak to people? You know, and how are you progressing? Well, again, it's like a wishy-washy question, isn't it? What is your goal? How many people have you presented to? Yeah.
True.
Or if sorry.
Much more powerful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And if you've got to follow up, and if you're in sales, you'd have to follow up with people. Not the question, are you following up with people? That's again, it's to
Open-ended.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get away with yes or no. And they'll probably say yes. But did you follow up with John Smith after we spoke the other day? You know, when you have a conversation, it has to be meaningful. Unless you're just catching up with someone like we do, and then that's fine. You can talk about what you like. It really doesn't matter. But if you're in a position of authority, or you're a leader, or you're heading an interview, then these questions have got to have some impact. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. So when can you ask powerful questions? Warren.
Sorry.
Because the other person might answer me, so.
I ask myself powerful questions probably first thing in the morning as well. You know, I like to get into I like the fact that I've got into the habit of doing that. But asking powerful questions, your spouse, your partner. This is another one that you also, we get very lazy with when we have a long-term partner, a husband or wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. We don't ask enough powerful questions. Like, for example, like, how was your day today? It's not a particularly powerful question, is it?
It may be a good starter question.
Yeah, it's a starter question.
Yeah.
But it's not a particularly powerful question. No. What successes did you have today? Now, that may not necessarily be something you're typically comfortable, used to asking your husband or your wife, but that's a powerful question. And this is the same thing in business. If you can ask, what successes have you had today, or what challenges have you had today?
Absolutely, yeah.
Powerful question for me as well. If you're going to the supermarket, the cashier, you can ask them a powerful question. How good has your day been today?
Yeah. I bet they don't get asked that very often.
Surely they don't. And these are people you want to build relationships with if it's possible. If it's not practical, then it's not practical. But otherwise, I think your children as well. Your children. This is a key one: is asking powerful questions to your children.
Yeah, they can be very difficult to talk to sometimes.
Oh yeah, well, depending on the age.
Yeah. And how did school go today? All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Was all right.
Tell us a little bit more than that.
But that's the question. If you ask how was school today, you can expect to get an answer like that, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I ask Laura, what did you learn at school today? So she has to give me something. She can't just say, sometimes she says nothing. And then I don't know why we're paying for you to go to school, but and I say that to her, then I don't know why you're going to school if you're not learning anything. But I'll ask her, what did you learn at school today? I'll ask her, how was school today? So what did you learn today? And this is the thing. You can start with not a wishy-washy question, but you can start with a basic, simple question that's going to elicit some wishy-washy answer, but then make sure you have a follow-up question for that brings something out of that person. They're forced to give you something a little bit more concrete in terms of an answer. Don't just leave it at that.
No, I think I said to you, when can you ask powerful questions? And you wrote down anywhere, anytime, everywhere, all the time. However, too many powerful questions, too much. So you ask less powerful questions, but more effective ones.
Yeah, I think if you ask...
I was just going to say, I remember when I was doing interviews for prospective partners in a business that people could pay anything between £1,500 and £22,000. So you had to choose your questions wisely. Yes, you can say, you can say there's lots of other questions you can ask, but when you come to the powerful ones, the ones you want an impact on, if you can't do more than about 6. And that's, maybe even less, because they're the answers you're after. They're the ones you want. And I wrote one, you've heard me say this before. and I swear by this if you were interviewing someone, okay? If I had 6 people to choose from, why would I pick you? And it puts them back in their seat. Not everybody answers it correctly or to any form of satisfaction. Confident people will. And I was looking for confident people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people ready to go now. Build a business now, today, not next week. So I needed confident answers that come from that, people. So they're racking their brains trying to think of some traits or abilities they've got and skills, and and that's what I want to see. I want to see it whirring.
The whirring of the brain.
Yeah, so the whirring, and yeah, it is like a tweaking them in the chest, like that. I'm going to ask you a powerful question now. You're not going. It's like pushing them in the chest. It's like, answer that one. I mean, you've done all the building what as much as a relationship as you're going to, and that's
the foundation.
Yeah, and asking questions. You married, different things, and would you like going away on holiday, and what do you like doing, and all those types of things. Yeah, you can do that. But when it comes to these really impactful questions, I mean, you can ask these impactful questions to yourself as well. Because it is about powerful questions. You get great feedback by asking powerful questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then it allows that question then opens up the channels. When is it being in the police and that? You ask one good question, because there's lots of surface questions that we all get, and any criminal is ready for all those surface questions. But then when you start going down to the next level, then the next level, then the next level, they're dead. They're dead in the water because they haven't thought that too deeply about it. Well, most people haven't anyway. So we need, if we're going to take corrective action when we're coaching, if we're going to, try and catch a murderer out when you're questioning him and things like that, there's certain things you've got to do. And the whole idea is to drag them down this cul-de-sac and then whack them from the other direction with something, when they're getting drawn down this one particular alleyway purposely, you drag them down there, but then you come in the back end of the alleyway and then whack them with a powerful question, things like that. And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, that's really what it's all about. It is the power of these questions that wins the day at the end, and that's what we found anyway. And it's great insight. You can get some great insight into people by asking powerful questions. I want to know the answer to that question inside. I'm going, I want to know. I want to know what's going to happen to you when someone comes along and slaps you in the face, business-wise, not physically. How are you going to react to it? It could be training, could be consulting, could be mentoring, coaching, advising, and you could even use this in a planning session as well. So, because the reason you do a planning session is to get the answers to questions that you really want, and to take you to where you want to go. Finding out what that person actually wants is going to come from questioning. We spoke about it before. We spoke about the hero's journey.
Yeah. And
also, what was the other thing? There was another thing as well. Oh, the colours.
The character, the colour codes.
Well, the only way you're going to answer those questions to find out what type of person they are is to ask questions.
Yeah.
So they're so important. I mean, and I know, having spoken to some people, they're a lot of times they're not ready for questions.
No, they're not.
They're not, and they can be quite mild questions. That's before the powerful ones.
Often people will say, "Oh, I've never thought about that before." And then it's because, and this goes back to something that I heard somebody say not long ago, is that people stopped asking questions, but they think they know all the answers.
I think I've told you this before. In 1980, I was in Amsterdam, and I met this bloke, an English bloke, in a bar, and I didn't know I was doing it. To be fair, I didn't do it purposely, but I started asking him some questions, and I worked out within 90 seconds he was on the run. I don't know where that came from. I said 90 seconds he was on the run, and he had kids, missed his kids. And it's terrible. Within under 2 minutes, I had him in tears. I really didn't mean to, you know. So, and that was because I delved into things, just asking questions. You know, where you from? Usual things. Where you from? It's the type of questions you'd ask anyone. But I must have dived a little bit deep straight early on without even realising it. And sometimes it can open up someone's imagination. Sometimes it can send them spiraling into their life that they were hoping to forget.
Shame, man.
And that's how powerful questions can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. It might make them consider opportunities and things like that, and other possibilities.
Well, this is the key thing, is that people don't realize that there are other possibilities out there for them, and if you ask them certain questions, they start to think about what those possibilities may be, and they haven't thought about that for maybe 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
They've been stuck in a hole, or they've been stuck in a system that doesn't encourage them to ask questions of themselves. They've been doing the same thing for eternity, and then you come along and just like, tell me. And then all of a sudden they're like thinking like, whoa, hey, hold on.
Oh, I must say this. I must say a little proviso at this stage, that if you ever get in a conversation with me, you won't know what I'm doing. You'll just think it's a normal conversation. And that's assuming that I'm in that situation, whether it be sales. But the other area, obviously being a functional nutritional therapist, is that if you're trying to find out what's wrong, or practitioner, if you're trying to find out what's wrong, you can ask some really deep questions. Not just the surface questions you get when you go to the GP, some real deep ones.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me exactly everything you eat and drink. Tell me, how many hours you get for sleep. Tell me, how do you prepare for bed? And all that stuff, so I can get a true picture of exactly where that person is. And again, questioning, powerful questions can solve a lot of things, especially with medical stuff, and maybe a lack of nutrition and things, and that sort of areas. So what's a good question? How would you describe a good question, Warren?
How would I describe a good question?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, a question that's going to get somebody thinking about their future, potentially. Or like in your case, if you're saying like as an integrative nutritionist, you want somebody to think about their present state, their present life. But for me, typically, I'm asking people about their future. What even with my private clients that I'm working with in the now, I don't often get them thinking too much about yesterday or today. I'm focusing on getting them thinking about tomorrow and the future when they're with me.
Mm-hmm.
When they're on their own, they can think about today, and I encourage that. But when they're with me, I want to ask them questions that get them thinking about their vision, or their goals in life, or their future planning, or something like that. Because I'm working with creating habits in people's lives. Changing their habits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is where I go along. And like, for example, this young guy that I had this conversation with today, I asked him. I said, "What more would you like to see in your life?"
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What more? Yeah. I mean, these are don't sound very powerful, but I can tell you now they are.
Yeah.
What?
Who thinks about that typically?
Yeah. I mean, Mark, who we do a bit of training with, I mean, it just basically says, what do you want a little bit more of? What do you want a little bit less of?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound very powerful, does it? But it is. You don't know it's a powerful question because it's just a part of the conversation. And it is.
Well, this is also the other thing is that, for many of us, when we're experiencing troubles and challenges in our life, which most people are at some point, they're thinking more about those troubles and those challenges that they're going through rather than the vision or the future, what they would like to have. So when you ask them, what would you like to see less of in your life? It's not very difficult for them to answer that question. They have 10 different things that they don't want to have in their life anymore,
Right.
So it's not very difficult for them to focus on that or answer that question because they are focusing on it. But when you ask them something like, what would you like to see more of in your life? They're so bogged down by excuse my French, but the SHIT, the shit that's going on in their lives, that they don't think about that. They think it's like, oh, that's too much in the future. I've got to deal with what I'm going through right now. And that is a very powerful way for some to try to shift somebody's thinking, get them asking more questions.
It's a bit like Shrek, really, isn't it?
Shrek.
Well, no, because it's like you have to peel the layers of the onion off.
Yeah.
To get to the answers that you want. It's but a good question is framed clearly and easily understandable. All right, it's not vague, and that's what and that's what you need. You need good questions when you ask someone something. Now, again, it depends on what situation you find yourself in. As I say, it could be that you're just catching up with someone, so none of that really matters because you're going to spend all your time just talking about what went on in the past and what you got going on and what's in the future type of thing. How's your family? And that's great because you need conversations like that. But if you're in the coaching sphere or mentoring, or you're a business owner or police officer or someone in the medical professional, you are going to need to ask some real searching questions at some stage. All right, and that's to be effective. So
even one of the simpler questions that we may ask is relating to your health. Is your health important to you?
Yeah.
How often does somebody actually honestly get asked that question? Even by their friends or the people that are close to them, who don't necessarily, because you don't study your friend's health.
No, you don't. That's right. You don't really care that too much about it. You do care, but you don't think that deeply about it enough to worry about it. But the classic example is this current situation we've got for the last 18 months or so, right? And you hear people say, "Well, he was healthy, she was healthy. They used to go running every day, but I can tell you now, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, well over 95% of people are, I wouldn't say unhealthy, but they've got definitely things wrong with them
underlying
that can be exploited by the current situation.
Yeah, they got underlying something.
Yeah, and that's most people. So
you're right, it's more than 95% of people, right? So
yeah. So and the thing is, unless someone asks really deep searching questions about their health, then they're never going to know.
Okay, well, let's take away the deep searching questions because sometimes people think that is too deep. Okay, and you just say, if you just ask somebody caring questions that
absolutely, you've got to be caring questions. Definitely.
I think people can associate more with, than deep searching questions, because sometimes people may think that's intruding upon somebody's privacy, but
I mean, you've got to, you have to get through that bit first before you start asking these questions, obviously. You're going to say, number one, you're going to ask them if they want your help, right? So, because I would say to someone, look, I'm going to ask you lots of questions. It's up to you whether you answer them or not. But for me to get a true picture of you, so I can help you, I'm going to ask the questions. And as I say, you can answer them yes, no, I don't want to answer that question, whatever. I don't, you know, I can't make people answer questions. I can ask them though. You know.
I claim the fourth or the fifth.
Fifth Amendment. No, I think that's watching Law and Order. But yeah, I think that questions are the answers. That was the book by Alan Pease, and he's quite right. Questions are the answers. Read that years ago. That book.
He is right.
Yeah. So, but with that, I've really got nothing else I want to say about questions. I think that you know, you can play your cards close to your chest if you want, but in certain circumstances, it doesn't help you to do that.
Yeah. So just that's a good. I'm glad you highlighted that again. Is just be careful with too much in terms of powerful questions, because people can think that you're trying to be a smart aleck, or
no,
you think you're above them, that kind of stuff, you know. So just be careful with that. It's a fine line between somebody perceiving you as being arrogant or inquiring.
Yeah. It does depend what situation you find. If you do dealing with the sort of medical stuff and things like that, yes, you've got to come from you must come from the caring angle. If you're coming from a sales point of view,
then be careful.
Yeah, there's going to be a fine dividing line between being sarcastic. There's a fine dividing line, you know, and you've got to be the right side of it. And you still got to care, because at the end of the day, I'm not doing it to catch people out. You're just trying to get them to think a little bit, you know. And
you don't want to embarrass anybody.
No, never.
From a sales perspective.
No, because if that was the case, I'd just be embarrassing myself all the time. That's easy. Like when you're a linesman running with a flag at football and you fall over. Yeah. And I'll tell you something I did the other day, and nobody saw it. I flagged the wrong way. I forgot. I was flagging for the right team, but the wrong direction. I forgot that they were going the other way. Do you know? I was right in front of where the benches sit with the substitutes.
And nobody noticed.
And not one person said anything or saw it, and I'm going, I'm not going to say anything. You know.
Clearly, you weren't making that much of an impression.
No, that's right. It was. I think everyone was waiting for the game to end in the last 10 minutes. So, and because being when you're running line as an assistant referee, you get questions about the ref all the time. Do you know what he's doing? Did he see that? I don't know. I've got his eyes.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a big issue in rugby the other day, last week, with South Africa, when South Africa played New Zealand. Yeah, and one of the physios, I think, or something like that, he was a water boy for the game. He was chasing the assistant referee down the line, screaming and shouting at him about something that had happened on the field. And the referee just went up to him afterwards. He said, "If you ever chase my assistant like that again, I'm going to send you off the pitch."
I would have sent him off anyway.
You send you off.
Send him off. Threatening behaviour.
Yeah. In rugby, they just don't tolerate that kind of stuff.
No. I know rugby's very good generally. I know I can't repeat on here what I would have said to him. But I think you can guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had to ask him any powerful questions. Let me put it that way. So with that, I'm personally done. What about you? You okay?
Done, yeah. That was a powerful question. Thank you. I'm done too.
Yeah. So if you need any help in any of those areas about powerful questions, we can help you.
Yeah, sure. If you need any coaching,
absolutely.
If you're new to the industry, if you're new to business,
you'd
like some coaching on questioning, then please feel free to reach out to Paul and I.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to share some pearls of wisdom, perhaps we could say that. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I'll go and see if I can find some.
Some pearls.
So anyway, for everyone here, have a fantastic week. And
yes.
I hope you get what you want in whatever it is you're doing, and have a satisfactory outcome. And we'll see you next Monday at 11 a.m.
And here's something to go out with. Here's a powerful question that you can ask yourself every day. What impact can I make today? That's a powerful question.
Mm.
And it leads you down a positive road. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great question. So with that, we're done. See you all later. Have a great, as I say, have a great day and a great week. And we'll see you next week.
yes.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye now.